Iran is staging pro-regime rallies to counter bloody pro-protests. But this isn't just about flags and speeches. It's part of a much deeper struggle happening right now in the heart of the Middle East. Over the past 2 weeks, what began as popular anger over Iran's collapsing economy and inflation has turned into one of the biggest domestic crises the country has faced in years. The government has responded with a mix of heavy-handed repression and carefully choreographed displays of unity. And that's exactly where these rallies fit in. State-organized, massive demonstrations meant to show that the regime still has legs, still has support, and still controls the narrative. These chants aren't just political slogans. They're broadcast over state TV in Tehran and played on loop to counter footage of unrest bubbling beneath the surface. But let's take a step back. This all began in late December with a relatively small protest over everyday frustrations, soaring food prices, a collapse in the value of the Iranian currency, and growing economic hardship for ordinary people. What started with shopkeepers and bazaar traders quickly spread across cities and provinces, morphing into calls for not just economic relief, but political change. And as these protests grew, so did the government's response. Security forces cracked down, arrests surged into the tens of thousands, and according to well-sourced human rights monitors, hundreds, possibly more than 500 people have died, a stark indicator of how violent the confrontation has become. Internet access inside Iran was shut off in early January, a near-total blackout that dropped connectivity to almost nothing and made it drastically harder for people inside the country to communicate or for the world to see what's happening on the ground. This blackout wasn't accidental. It's a classic authoritarian play. Cut the digital lifeline so that photos, videos, and eyewitness testimony can't flow out while the state's version of events flows in. Meanwhile, from Tehran's corridors of power, officials are trying to reframe the narrative. They claim that foreign interference, especially from the United States and Israel, is behind the unrest. They urge citizens to rally behind the Islamic Republic, calling these protests not expressions of public anger, but acts of sedition and instability. Foreign leaders, meanwhile, are watching closely. The U.S. says Iran has even expressed an interest in reopening diplomatic talks, perhaps to defuse the crisis, while simultaneously warning Tehran against further bloodshed. Back on the streets, despite internet blackouts and harsh repression, Iranians continue to protest, to raise their voices, and to challenge the narrative being spun by their government. The protests haven't fizzled out. They've spread deeper and wider than many expected. So, when you hear about pro-regime rallies, don't see them as a simple show of support. See them as part of a broader fight over control of Iran's story, and for many inside the country, over the future of the country itself. This is more than just politics. It's a moment that could shape the direction of Iran for years, maybe decades to come.
Subscribe to One India and never miss an update. Download the One India app now.